Imagine being pregnant with a dog, or jumping involuntarily at command, or being completely convinced, despite all evidence pointing to blindness, that you can see with your eyes. These are just a few of the strange brain disorders that have plagued a rare set of people over the years. Oliver Sacks' classic book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, introduced us to some of the strangest brain disorders people suffer from, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Here are a few of the most bizarre mental conditions out there. People with misophonia are triggered by common sounds, such as chewing, loud breathing, or even repeated pen clicking. It isn't just an annoyance to them, but reactions range from discomfort to sharp anger to physical violence. It is an actual neurological disorder. There's no cure, but if one is diagnosed, there are coping mechanisms that can improve one's quality of life. People suffering from puppy pregnancy syndrome believe that shortly after being bitten by a dog, puppies are conceived within their abdomen. They believe that they will eventually die, especially men, who think they will give birth to the puppies through their penis. The syndrome is localized to villages in several states of India. Exploding head syndrome is a benign condition in which an individual experiences loud unreal noises like a bomb exploding or a gunshot going off in their head when falling asleep or waking up. There is no known cause, and aside from the shock, it is harmless. Locked-in syndrome is a condition in which a patient has cognitive awareness but can't move any body part or communicate verbally about their cognitive mental state due to complete paralysis of nearly all voluntary muscles in the body, except for vertical eye movements and blinking. A man named Richard Marsh is a rare survivor of locked-in syndrome. During his coma, he watched his wife beg doctors not to take him off of life support and witnessed his own rough handling by the nighttime staff. Another man named Martin Pistorius woke up from a coma after 2 years, but was unable to show any sign of it and so was trapped in a lifeless state for a further 10 years whilst being fully aware. Another victim of this disease, Jean-Dominique Bobby, wrote a book by blinking his left eyelid for 10 months and died 10 days after the book released. According to a 2010 report in the journal Current Biology, a woman known as SM is literally fearless due to a rare genetic condition known as Urbach-Wiethe disease that hardened her amygdala, part of the brain responsible for fear response. Researchers exposed her to snakes, spiders, and amusement park haunted house and horror films, none of which scared her. Researchers said that these findings could help in progress for the treatment of post-traumatic stress disorders. There is a mental illness named Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where a caregiver deliberately induces physical or mental problems in those who are in their care. This is typically done to gain attention and sympathy for themselves. Approximately 1% of asthma cases in children are faked by their parents. The worst case where this was noticed was of Mary Beth Tinning, who is suspected of have killed all 9 of her children in a span of 14 years. Morgellons disease is a delusional infestation. People affected by it become delusional and see things crawling beneath their skin and see bugs coming out of their body. They then start scratching themselves, forming sores, in order to purge their bodies of fibers that they believe is implanted in them from a certain organism. This disease has been reported all across the world, and even a congressional study was conducted. Sleeping Beauty syndrome or Klein-Levin syndrome is a rare sleep disorder that causes the patients to experience periods of excessive sleep episodes, which can last anywhere from 20 hours a day to a couple of days to even weeks. About 80% of patients are teenagers when they first experience KLS. These episodes of lengthy sleep may be preceded by flu-like symptoms, and, when they're awake, people with this syndrome may exhibit various odd behaviors, including eating excessively, hallucinating, or acting childishly. Jerusalem syndrome is an intense religious psychosis that is triggered when a person who seems previously balanced and devoid of any signs of psychopathology becomes psychotic after arriving in Jerusalem. It is not endemic to one single religion or denomination but has affected Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. An affected person may believe himself to be the coming of the Messiah or the second coming of Christ. This psychosis resolves to full recovery after leaving Jerusalem. Jumping Frenchman of Maine is a rare disorder of unknown origin. Some affected individuals may exhibit automatic or forced obedience after a startle response, during which they automatically respond to simple commands such as jump, run, or hit. Individuals with this condition were first found in the Moosehead Lake region of Maine. One theory is that it is a genetic condition. Similar to paranoia, a person suffering from pronoia feels that persons or entities are conspiring against them, but instead of feeling that the world is conspiring to harm them or do them bad. People with pronoia feel that the world around them conspires to do them good. Antonov-Babinski syndrome is mostly seen following a stroke or head injury. Those who have it become completely blind as a result of the injury, but often are quite adamant, in the face of clear evidence of their blindness, that they are capable of seeing. They employ confabulation to fill in the missing sensory input. Following the accident, it may take days or weeks for doctors and family members of the victim to realize that the patient is blind. The patient will collide with pieces of furniture, fall over objects, may try to walk through a wall or through a closed door, or talk to people who aren't there at all. Olfactory reference syndrome is a mental disorder in which there is a persistent, false belief and preoccupation about emitting abnormal body odor, which is foul and offensive to other people. People with this condition often misinterpret others' behaviors. For example, they interpret sniffing, touching the nose, or opening a window as being referential to an unpleasant body odor, which in reality is non-existent and cannot be detected by other people. Erotomania is a type of delusional disorder in which the affected person believes that another person is infatuated with him or her. This disorder is most often seen, though not exclusively, in female patients that are shy, dependent, and sexually inexperienced. The object of the delusion is typically a male who is unattainable due to high social or financial status, marriage, or disinterest. Men can experience some of the same symptoms of pregnancy as an expectant partner. These most often include minor weight gain, altered hormone levels, morning nausea, and disturbed sleep patterns. In more extreme cases, they can experience labor pains, postpartum depression, and nosebleeds. This condition is known as Couvade syndrome or sympathetic pregnancy. Pretending to have a mental disorder is still a mental disorder. It is called nonsense syndrome or dancer syndrome or prison psychosis. People affected by it exhibit short-term episodes of odd behavior, similar to that shown by people with other serious mental illnesses. It is often seen in prison inmates where it may be seen as an attempt to gain leniency from prison or court officials. Abulimania is a disorder that involves the occasional onset of crippling indecision. People suffering from it otherwise have no physical and mental problems. They simply run into very serious problems whenever they're faced with certain choices, even with simple everyday tasks, going for a walk or not, paper or plastic, to the extent that they struggle to regain normal function. They feel imprisoned by the inability to fulfill their own will. There exists a clinical condition that is the opposite of anorexia called bigorexia. The person affected by it becomes obsessed with the idea that their body is too small, too skinny, insufficiently muscular, or insufficiently lean, although in most cases, the individual's build is normal, or even exceptionally large and muscular already. It affects mostly males, particularly those involved in sports, where body size or weight are competitive factors. There's a phenomenon called the Paris syndrome, which mostly affects Japanese tourists who are visiting Paris for the first time. It is caused by the disparity between the Paris shown in Japanese media and the real Paris. Symptoms include hallucinations, delusions, and feelings of persecution. There is even a 24-hour helpline run by the Japanese embassy in Paris to help these tourists. There is a disorder which can cause children mostly between 3 and 7 to suddenly lose their language skills. It can seriously affect their language production and comprehension later in life. It is called Landau-Kleffner syndrome or infantile acquired aphasia. Some people with this syndrome also suffer from seizures, and scientists are yet to understand why the disorder occurs. Subscribe to Fact Republic channel and press the bell notification to never miss any updates. To watch part 1 of this series, click on the thumbnail.